Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we have a new gimbal by Zhiyun. We have the Weebill 3E Cinepeer. If you have just purchased this stabilizer and you want to understand a bit more on how to use it, stay tuned because we're going to cover a full tutorial, hopefully. Let's start by covering what you're finding in the box when you receive the Weebill 3E. Of course, the gimbal stabilizer itself, you will find a small tripod, a plate which you will attach your camera to, a small 1/4 inch screw which will be attached to the camera and the plate, a USB-C to USB-C cable, a standard USB to USB-C cable, and a wrench key, and a manual which is not covering everything, and that's why we're here today. The first thing I recommend is to not turn your gimbal on at all for now. There's a few steps you're going to do before we are going to turn it on. And the first step I usually do is to put my tripod to the gimbal. Under the gimbal here, you will find 3 different screw threads. These are 1/4 inch screw threads. Your tripod has a 1/4 inch screw at the top. You simply want to screw the two together like so. And of course, you can open up your tripod and place it wherever you go for the next steps. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to place my tripod on a stand. So I'm going to remove the tripod, but you can keep it on and keep watching. Let's give a couple of directions to understand which is the front and the back of the gimbal to proceed with the tutorial. You will find a display on one side of the stabilizer. This is what I call the front of the gimbal, and it's usually facing myself. At the back of your gimbal, you will find a wheel and a trigger button. We will cover these things later on. What I do next usually is to charge my stabilizer. Now, as we have called the front and the back of the gimbal, display is facing me. On the left-hand side of your gimbal, you will find a USB-C port. This is your charging port. We are going to take the USB to USB-C cable that came with the gimbal. We're going to connect the USB, standard USB, to a power bank or to your socket. Here's my power bank. And the USB-C to the USB-C port of your gimbal. Simple as that. Now, as soon as I power my power bank, let's have a look at the monitor. You will see a battery icon popping up onto your screen telling you your gimbal is now charging. Before you do anything else, charge your gimbal fully. When the gimbal is fully charged, the icon will stop blinking. Once you're done, you simply unplug your cable and you're ready for the next step. Locking system. Each axis of your gimbal has a lock. If you don't know what an axis is, go and check my previous video where I explain what a stabilizer is and its axis as well. When you receive the gimbal in its package, it will be locked, meaning nothing can move. This is because each axis of your gimbal has a lock that keeps it into place, and you want to keep your gimbal as it is right now when you are carrying your gimbal, so the motors and nothing gets damaged. But to operate the gimbal, we want to undo the locks. You will find one right here. This is for the panning axis. Then you will find one on your roll axis, which is right there. And the last one will be on your tilt axis, which is here. Now everything is unlocked. We will now check how to mount your camera on your gimbal to balance it in landscape mode, and right after how to put your camera for portrait mode. For the next step, we want to lock the locks again, but with the gimbal completely open. And this is what I mean. Pan axis, pull the lock down, and make sure it's not moving, okay? The display is still facing yourself. We're going then to lift the roll axis up, and here now you will see this tag saying Cinepeer. This one should be readable upright. So the text should be upright and should be on your right hand side. Once it's completely up, you want to lock this axis and the arm won't move again. The last one is the tilt axis. We're going to lock it here. And again, make sure it stays into place. With the gimbal, another mount will come, which is, in my case, already on the gimbal, and it's this one right here. If that wasn't already on top of your gimbal, I'll show you how to mount it. At the back, you will see a lock text and an actual lock. So make sure you unlock it. And now this mount will slide on the rail. On this side, you will see this silver button, right? That's a release button. So you want to press it, hold it, and move your mount out of the rail. If that wasn't on top of your gimbal already, we want to slide it onto the rail first. So make sure the lock text is going to face yourself. All right, remember the front and back of the gimbal? So it's gonna face yourself. You simply are going to slide the mount inside the rail. If it doesn't, hold this release button again, the silver release button here. Slide in and we leave it there for now. And I'm going to place the gimbal facing forward. Next step, we're gonna get this plate, the bigger one, right? You will see the Zhiyun logo on one of the sides. And also here, you will notice this gap is a bit bigger than here. We'll take also the screw, 1/4 inch screw that came with it. We're going to reverse the plate and we're going to insert our screw right here where the hole is bigger. Insert it and you start spinning until it goes to the other side. There it is. Once it's completely in, you will be able to slide your screw through the rail and it will stay safely inside the rail without coming out. Next, we're gonna take our camera and our plate, we're gonna touch them together. So the lens of your camera, of course, will be facing forward. On the plate itself, you will notice a 1/4 inch screw thread, and that will be the front of your plate, meaning it will be facing the same direction of your lens, like so. Now what you want to do is to attach the screw to your camera. You see the screw thread is in the same direction of your lens, right? Make sure the plate is also straight in line with your lens. What I usually do now is to make sure that the end of my plate matches the end of my camera. So I'm gonna slide it back a little bit like that. But this might change according to the weight of the camera. So it's just a test. You need to keep testing the balance of your camera on top of the gimbal as you go, unfortunately. It's not an easy thing. And then you take your wrench key and you keep screwing your screw until it's tight. Lovely stuff. It should look like that. Now you have your gimbal, again, facing forward, display facing yourself, this arm on your right hand side. You take your camera facing forward as well, and into this mount, which was already on the gimbal, in my case, we're going to slide the camera. So this plate we have just attached to the camera. We're starting from the front of the gimbal and we're gonna slide it backward. You will hear a click. That's the lock that goes into place. If your camera is not sliding inside the rail, make sure this lock button is unlocked now. It's now unlocked. I slide the camera back and I'm going to lock it so my camera won't move for now. As I've done that, I want to make sure also that my camera here is attached to my motor. So usually I don't leave any space between the body of my camera and the tilt axis. Right here we have the lock we have checked before. Make sure it's unlocked and you want to slide your camera towards the motor and then lock it here. To balance the camera properly on your gimbal, we will have to unlock the locks we have seen before one by one. And we are gonna start with the horizontal level of the tilt axis right here. Before you start this process, make sure you add anything you're going to use on the camera right now. If you're using filters, cables, anything, maybe a receiver for a microphone, it has to be on the camera right now because you're going to balance this kit at this very moment. And any extra weight you will add, it will change completely the balance of your camera and gimbal. Also, make sure your gimbal is turned off. You don't want to do anything without your camera properly balanced on the gimbal. Otherwise, you're gonna damage the motors. Remember this lock, we're going to unlock it and hold the camera in your hands at the moment because it might fall forward or backward according to the weight of the camera and the lens. We're going to unlock it. I'm gonna slowly let go my camera and you see it's falling forward, meaning my kit is front heavy. So the lens is too heavy and we need to slide the camera backward in this case. To do so on this mount, we have to unlock the first lock on the left. And now you will be able to slide your plate back and forth on the rail. So you want to slide it back and forth until you find that spot where the camera will stay into place. It's a tiny adjustment because as soon as you slide it too much back, the camera will fall, it will drop back, and too much on the front, it will fall to the front. So make sure you go step by step with your fingers and you find the balance spot. Once you have found it, we go back here and we are going to lock this lock again. The camera might move, so make sure you hold it. There it is. The next step is to find the vertical level of the tilt axis. So what we're going to do is to tilt the camera up, and it's completely off balance because we want to find that spot when the lens will be keeping facing up. We have this screw now at the back of your gimbal. We want to unscrew it, and now we are able to slide this plate up and down on this rail. So unlock it here, unscrew. See, you will be able to move up and down your camera. So keep your camera facing up, and we're going to move this mount up and down until we find that spot when the camera will keep facing up. Once you have found it, you want to screw this lock again tight. Now, if we have balanced the tilt axis properly and you move your camera in any direction, the camera should stay in this spot like that, as you can see, but it's not too bad. So it actually stays, it stays, it stays. So I have found my balance for the tilt axis. The next arm we're going to balance is the roll. So that's the roll axis.